G'day Internet, Chris here and welcome back to the channel. In my last video, I built this sweet little router table into the wing of my cabinet saw. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I built the fence on it. It's got sacrificial, adjustable faces on the front, so you can dial them right in close to your router bit, and if you catch them, you can just build a new one. It's got T-track running along the top, so you can use this sweet as Cat's Moses stop block. And it's all set up for dust collection, which I'll go over in the video after this one. Let's get into the build, shall we? I'm going to be building this fence out of some cheap 18mm or 3/4 inch ply from the local hardware centre. The fence is primarily made of 3 strips, one for the bottom, which is 126mm or 5 inches wide, and 2 for the fence face, both 90mm or 3.5 inches wide. So I start off by ripping them all down on the table saw. The 2 strips for the face of the fence need to be glued together, so I cut them both to rough length of about 700mm or 27.5 inches, then I glue and clamp them together using my workbench to keep them straight. After the glue is dried, I take it over to the table saw and give it a skim cut to ensure it's a dead flat surface. This is important, as if there's any variation, it could result in your fence being out of square. Then I can cut it down to final length of 382mm or 26.75 inches, which is the width of my router table. I want to attach the stop block to my fence so I can set stops for when I'm doing my routing. So to do that, we're going to need to put some T-track on there. Now this is the only T-track I've got left. It's a little bit short, but it'll do fine. We're going to go over to the table saw and cut a chunk out there to fit our T-track. No need for measuring here. I can just use the T-track as a guide to set my blade depth and fence position to make the 2 cuts I need. And just like that, we've got a perfect rabbit for the T-track to sit in for us to attach the stop block to. Next, we're going to cut a hole through both the base and the side of the fence. This is important as it not only allows the router bit to be positioned essentially inside the fence, but it also gives us an opportunity for better dust collection. This should all make a bit more sense as we go through the video. I'm using a 54mm or 2 1/8 inch Forstner bit to make the hole, drilling a pilot hole first. After drilling the hole, I make some lines from the edge of the hole to the bottom of the fence, and then proceed to cut along those lines with a jigsaw. And then I repeat the same process for the bottom plate of the fence. And now we're starting to get a sense of what the fence will look like. Now I want to drill some holes in the bottom plate to attach the fence to the router table. And to get the position, I simply put the bolts in place and mark their position against the bottom plate. I then semi-assemble the fence and eyeball exactly where I want the knob to be positioned. And using an 8mm or 5/16 of an inch brad point drill bit, I drill the holes. Now we can actually attach the fence to the base plate, and while you can see me gluing and screwing it in place, I'm not actually convinced that I need the glue. And the point of the brad nails here is really just to hold things in place until I can screw it all together. To add some rigidity to the fence, I cut some triangles out of some leftover ply to act as brace pieces for the fence. To begin with, I simply glue and brad nail these in place, but I later decided that I should probably screw them in too. And for the two triangles in the middle, I made sure to use the dust port to space them apart. And like I said, I went back and screwed them all in as well, although I'm not sure how necessary that was. And believe it or not, we're almost done with the main fence body. All that's left to do now is to attach the T-track to the top. And here I'm using a self-centering drill bit to make sure that the T-track doesn't wander when I'm screwing it down. And when screwing in tiny screws, I prefer to use a screwdriver, as using a drill runs the risk of threading the hole. The last piece we need to make is the adjustable replaceable fence faces. These will allow us to adjust the size of the dust port in the middle depending on the size of the router bit we're using, giving us maximum support for our workpiece. I'm going to make these out of MDF, so I measure the height of the fence and rip a piece down to that size. I then take that strip to the router table, and using the chamfer bit I cut a small chamfer along one edge. When all put together, this chamfer bit will run along the bottom of the fence and give a place for the dust particles to go without interfering with my work. And with the chamfer done, I can cut the strip into two pieces that will make the left and right sides of the fence. Now it's back to the router table, and we want to essentially cut a dado in the center of each of our fence faces. This is essentially to recess the screws we will use to attach the fence face to the body. So we want the width of the dado to be larger than the diameter of the screw head, and we want the depth of the dado to be slightly bigger than that of the screw head. And as you can see here, while I don't have any stop locks yet, I've just clamped some pieces of wood onto the fence body to ensure I don't blow out the front or the back of the fence faces. Now, without moving the fence or the stop locks, I switch out the router bit for a bit that's slightly larger than the shank of the aforementioned screws, and proceed to route all the way through each fence face. And as you can see, I do this in 2 passes as it feels a bit safer. Now we need a way of attaching these to the fence body, and to do this we're going to use some threaded inserts. To work out where to put these, I simply hold the fence faces in place and use a screwdriver to mark out where I want to drill the holes for the inserts. Then using a brad point bit for accuracy, I drill the holes for the inserts and screw them in with an Allen key. I almost forgot to mention, the dust port is simply screwed in place. I figured I might want to remove it in the future, so I didn't use any glue or silicone. And with that, we can screw our fence faces in place, and Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt, we're done. Wait a minute, I missed one very important piece. No router fence is complete without a cat's Moses stop lock. That's it for this video. As I mentioned, this is the second part in a 3-part series on my router table. Stay tuned for the next video in which I'll make a vacuum box to deal with the dust collection for this baby. And spoiler alert, I have my first router accident. Luckily, I've still got my fingers. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.